Eastlake. We are so glad that you're here this morning. My name is Miss Laura and I work in the children's ministry here. And we're really glad that you decided to join us this morning, whether you're in person or at home and on virtual. One thing that you can do to be ready for the service this morning is go on your smart device and download the Bible app. You can find notes from the sermons and all the scriptures right there in the Bible app. So do that if you haven't done it.
All right, I'm rolling.
Okay. All right, so one more thing that you can do is go on our website and click that I'm here button. Even if you are in the building, we really want to know that you are here. It's like when you used to take roll back, back in the day. So click the I'm here button. If you are at home, we also want to know, so click that button. And while you're there, you can do your online giving. You can also submit prayer requests because we as a staff take the time on Tuesday to look over those and to pray for you. All right, so if you haven't already, we want for you to make yourself at home. You can go out in the lobby and grab some coffee. And if you are at home, just shuffle over in your little slippers and pour yourself another cup because we're getting ready to get started.
Welcome to Eastlake. I'm Pastor Rob, and we are so excited you are with us as we prepare to worship God together. And there's a few things you can be doing as we get ready to get started. Whether you're at home or in the building, I want you to grab your smart device. I want you to find the YouVersion app, download it, and you'll have all the scriptures, and you'll be able to take notes on today's message, and you will not regret it. And while you're waiting, if you're anything like me, you want some coffee. So if you're in the building, run on out, grab some coffee in the lobby, enjoy it. You can even bring it right back in here as long as you promise not to spill it on your neighbor. And if you're at home, you can spill it on anyone you want. Just go get it out of your kitchen and enjoy it. Hey, and while we're waiting, could you please go on your computer, your smartphone, whatever you need to do, whether you're in the building or at home, and hit the I'm Here button. The reason this is important, it helps us to know who's with us, whether they're in person or virtual. You can also give on that page, and you can also send us prayer requests, which we pray for every Tuesday. Hey, it looks like we're about to get started. I pray that your heart is ready to worship God with us as we lift up praises in His name and hear His words spoken to us. Let's go.
Good morning. It's good to see you guys. We're glad you're here at church with us. It's going to be a great day. Go ahead, just like this. We'll get ourselves moving a little bit. It's good for us. I saw Satan fall like lightning. Yeah. I saw darkness run for cover. But the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven. I believe, yeah. I believe in signs and wonders. I have resurrection power. Still a miracle that I just can't get over. My name is registered in heaven. Yeah. My praise belongs to you forever. This is my is my hey. Oh, you know, you know, you know, you know. Come together, sons and daughters. That's us. Bought with blood and washed with water. Sing the praises of the Spirit, Son, and Father. Our God will finish what He started. He's not through with you. Our God will finish what He started. This is my testimony. Compared to Lord, come on. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I testify. Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified, you know. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. We came to worship you, Lord. Oh, I love this part. Just come on, it helps if we're. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Think about that. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. No, no, no. 'Cause greater things are still to come. Everybody sing. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. No, 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 no. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. Hey. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. All right, your turn to sing. This is my testimony. You sing from death to life. I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'm testifying by Jesus Christ the righteous. I'm justified, you know. This is my testimony. This is my hey. We came to worship you, Lord. Woo! Man, we're having church today. I love it. Praise the Lord. Here we go. It just feels good to be in church with all of you, doesn't it? This feels good. Just say. Sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. My story isn't over, my story's just begun. Failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. He defines us. Failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Ooh. Lay your burdens down. Ooh. Here in the Father's house. Check his shame out the door. It ain't welcome anymore. Ooh. You're in the Father's house. We celebrate it. We want to thank you, Lord. We want to thank you, God. The rival's not the end game. The journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect. You just wanted my heart. The story, and the story isn't over if the story isn't good. Because failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Think about that. Failure's never final when the Father's in the room. So we say, oh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the shame at the door. I love that. Prodigals come home. The helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors swing wide. The dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father. We pray for miracles. Miracles take place. A cynical find faith. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Yeah. Jericho walls are quaking. Strongholds now shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Lay your burdens down. Here in the Father's house. Check the shame out the door. It ain't welcome anymore. Lay your burden. Let's get all of us. Come on, everybody. Lay your burden. A church family. Here in the Father. Leave it at the door. Check your shame out the door. It ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. We believe that.
Well, just for a moment, have a seat. Good morning, everybody. All right, if this is your first time here, welcome to Eastlake Community Church. You are in for quite a message this morning, so get ready for that. I'm Ray Washington, I'm the lead pastor here, and I just have a few announcements for you. Since you're here, even in your living room, you're still here, and we welcome you as well. We want you to go on the app and just press the I'm Here button, just to let us know where you are joining us from, and as well, submit your prayer requests. We would love to partner with you in those things that matter to your heart. And the I'm Here button allows you the opportunity to do that, whether you're at home or in the room. As well, the I'm Here button helps you to give. And so you partner with us in that way by helping us to transform communities here, near, and far. So today we're having a zip code party, actually the last of the zip code parties. And so that's for my Valentine, Chapin, Little Mountain, and Prosperity people. Where you at? Let me see your hands. Put them up, all right? So after services today at 12:30, we would love for you to be out in the lobby. Don't mind them. At 12:30, we're gonna be out in the lobby having lunch together, playing games together, and learning about one another. So it's a great opportunity for you to connect with us and us with you. The second thing, next Sunday, we are partying church, people. We're partying church. We believe God's word. He is a partying God. I mean, he said, let there be light, and then parties. So, no, but seriously, we have our partnership celebration next Sunday following the second service. Partnership celebration, what's that about, Ray? Well, normally we have a partnership meeting where we discuss the things that are coming up for Eastlake. You vote on some things, and then we go home. Well, God has been up to some crazy stuff here at Eastlake, and you'll learn that that started a long time ago, and it's just continuing now. And so we want to share that with you. So if you want to join us next Sunday for the partnership celebration, go online and register for that, because we're trying to order food. We want to make sure that we have enough for everybody. Even if you're not a partner, because you're like, well, what is a partner? A partner is somebody that has raised a hand and said, look, Ray, we are here. This is our home church. We're giving, we're serving, and we want to make sure that we're solid on our relationship. It's not a dating thing. We are part of this church. And so if that's something to you that's like, hey, are we partners? Well, talk to a pastor, and we'll have a discussion about what does it mean, what does it take to be a partner. It's easy, it's painless, there's no shots involved, there's no kidnapping or coercing or any of that. All you just show up to let's have a discussion about, are you on board what God is doing here, and do you want to be a part of that? So I'm praying that you guys will engage God in a new way today as Philip gets ready to lead you guys, continue to lead you guys in worship. Thank you.
Ray, thanks, man. So, hey, let's stand up together. We have an upper hand on you guys because as a worship team, we've been here since about 6:30. And so our hearts are in the zone. I mean, we're in the sweet spot of just worshiping God and praising Him. But I know sometimes when I come to church, it takes me just a second to kind of remind myself, okay, this is why I woke up today. This is why I showed up here. So can we all just kind of take a moment and whatever that means for you, to just say, God, I want to worship you in spirit and in truth this morning. Maybe even just remind yourself, oh yeah, God, the most important thing this morning is you and what you're doing. Sometimes I have to do this where I just say, God, I want to humble myself before you and admit that I don't have it all figured out. And God, honestly, a lot of times I'm cynical and I put you in a box, but God, I don't want to be like that this morning. God, I don't want to worry about the people around me, or maybe even if you're like me, sitting next to your family members, and it's like, well, I know my dad doesn't worship like that last night, but why is he worshiping like that this morning? We check our shame at the door. We don't worry about those things. It's just me and you, Lord. God, maybe you would get me out of my comfort zone. Like, I'm the worst at this, where I say, okay, this is my style of worship. I raise my hands, or I cross my arms, or I think. I'm a thinking worshiper. But maybe instead you just say, God, I respond to you, whatever that looks like today. You're the most important thing in this room.
There's nothing worth more that will ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope. Your presence, Lord, we just respond to you. I've tasted and seen of the sweetest of loves, where my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. Let that go. In your presence, Lord. If you know it, let's just be a choir. Fill the room with our voices, singing, Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place, fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord. We love you, we worship you, Lord. Nothing worth more. There's nothing worth more that will ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope. He's hope through whatever your struggle. Your presence, Lord. So we draw near to the source. I've tasted and seen my whole life of the goodness of love, where my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. You're always there, Lord. Your presence, Lord. I'll say, Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere.
Jesus. Thank you, Lord. We feel your presence, God, as we're singing. It just feels great to have your Holy Spirit with us, to feel your presence around us, and that hope. Oh, man, no matter where we're at, that hope that we feel when you're around, God. Help us become more aware of how your presence is in everything and how your presence goes with us. Help us to notice you in everything. Oh, my words fall short. I've got nothing new. How could I express all my gratitude? Let's have gratitude. I could sing these songs as I often do, but every song must end, and you never do. Sing it out. Come on, Dusty.
So I throw up my hands, praise you again and again. 'Cause all that I have is an hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not much, but I've nothing
Sometimes it's good to just kind of make up your own song. And it sounds intimidating for a lot of people, but it's just like, what do you want to say to God? How do you want to worship Him? Maybe you're going to call out and say, God, I need you in my life right now. I can't do this on my own. Maybe you just want to say, God, I've been worshiping so many things except for you. Say, God, these are the struggles that I have. You're a good, faithful God, so I give them to you. You got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. Just one more time, I love it. I'll say, come on, my soul. Don't you get shy on me. Lift up your song. You got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Let's pray. God, we love you, and man, it's just so important to get centered on you. And I love getting to worship with this family. Just kind of let all those different things go away that stress us out so much. Just be reminded that you're on your throne. This whole world revolves around you. You are the center. So God, whatever this family, this group of people brings to the table today, whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, we trust you with it. We trust you with our lives, and we say, man, God, would you just take me and don't leave me where I'm at, but instead mold me, change me, move in me. And most of all, God, help us to be so light, so bright with this light that you give us, that everywhere we go, people know we've been near the Lord. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Ooh, let's give it up for God one more time. So today is going to be really cool. It's going to be neat. Probably wondering why there's a table sitting here and Chris here, but we are in a new series starting this Sunday. Hang on, I got to take these things out of my ears. Well, that's weird. Okay, I feel better. Do you feel better? All right, so we're in a series that's called, watch, when I do this, it's going to happen. It's called We Are Eastlake. No, see, it didn't happen. I lied to you completely. We Are Eastlake. Nothing. Okay, I think Robert. Oh, there we go. I thought it might have been like a restroom break or something, but he's back there. So, anyways, Chris, you should have picked a better friend. I'm telling you.
I kind of like the one I have.
So this series is really neat because we're talking about just where we've been as a church. By the way, we're coming up on an anniversary, and I'll let Chris kind of talk about that in a little bit. But where we've been, because it really helps us to define where we're going. And there's a lot. It's kind of like if there's a history teacher in here, don't be offended by me saying this, but it's hard to make history interesting sometimes. But I'm telling you, this stuff is so important because if you're a part of this family, you have to know where we've come from in order to know where we're going. So, yeah. Sound good, Chris?
Well said.
What do you want to tell the people?
All right, so as Philip did mention, my name is Chris Buck, and my wife Carolyn and I have been a part of Eastlake for almost 25 years. We've got 2 adult children, Aaron and Anna. It's fun to say adult children. We have had some tremendous friends in the past and currently here at Eastlake as we have worshiped and served here. And I've been involved in a lot of different ministries. Some of my favorites include production, whether behind the booth or hiding in the room next door. I have been a baby holder and currently work with men, leading a men's ministry group. And I'm currently serving on Eastlake's Board of Elders.
Yeah, so this is important to know. Chris, and he won't say this, but I'll say it. Chris is one of those people who's been here as kind of a solid rock for lots of years and through
Thank you.
through a lot of things and, seeking God's wisdom, and it's not always easy. I mean, he's been the chairman of the elders almost all the time, and right now you're in a lull. You're really at a weak point, Chris, not being chairman right now. What's wrong with you, man?
A lull. I like that, a lull. So I am really excited to be with you. I'm a little terrified, but I'm really excited. I've talked to all of Eastlake's former lead pastors, many staff, current and former, partners, just had a ball preparing for what we're going to talk about as we go through from the beginning. Big umbrella of grace, please, I would ask for as we talk about this. There's a series worth of material, and we could be here all day if we went through more of it. So it's been one of the most incredibly difficult things to try and figure out what to share and what to leave out. So if I leave something out and you're like, why don't you say this? Well, just forgive me now, just please. All right. So the timeline on the stories are going to be from the very beginning of Eastlake through current day. I'm just serving as a witness. I was around for almost all of it. Some of the early years, we were not part of Eastlake, but I have it on testimony from many people what that was about and what that was like. So I look forward to hearing some of your stories maybe after as you kind of fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah. You need to be our new historian. That's a new job for you. Okay.
There's an age part of that I'm not sure I want to jump into.
So which anniversary are we coming up on?
Next year, we'll have our 25th anniversary as a church.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So more to come with that.
So why is this so important to talk about our history as we
Well,
start this series?
I do want to answer that. Before we get to that,
Uh-oh.
I wanted to dive into a survey, because I have a theory, and the first service blew my theory out of the water. I was completely wrong, but I'll share it. My theory is that 80% of the people that are at Eastlake now that would call Eastlake their church home have only been here for less than 5 years. Now, we kind of surveyed everyone at the last service, and I was dead wrong. But we'll do it again just for fun. So, and we're going to do this in 2 groups. So if you've been coming to Eastlake, if Eastlake's your church home for less than 5 years, just raise your hand, please. Less than 5 years. So quite a few. Okay, that's good. Did you count?
Yeah, I got
Musicians
it.
can only count to
like
4.
I'm like Jason Bourne over here.
Okay. So if you've been at Eastlake your church home for 5 years or more, show of hands. Oh, I'm even more wrong now.
So
okay, put your hands down.
50-50?
50-50, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I'm wrong. All right.
What about?
So for the 50% of you that haven't been here that long, maybe this will be important. But you asked the question, why is history important?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think about the Bible, what is the Bible? It's history. It's the history of God's people through time. How did God interact with them? And so, we don't have to go far to understand what history's like. And just as a story, my son got married in COVID. I guess it was a little over a year ago. And as we got to meet and get to know Whitney, his bride, we told stories. We told history. And we would sit around and talk about different things from our lives. And so Eastlake family, as we talk about our history, you will become more and more a part of that family.
It starts to be your story.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, at some point it's we.
It's a we and not a they. Ooh, that's good.
That's good. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know why I'm here, Chris. We'll see if at the end it contributed anything.
All right. So you want me to start at the beginning?
Yeah, so tell us, so how did Eastlake begin? Thanks, he's interviewing himself. So, Chris, how did Eastlake begin?
Now I know why you're here. All right, so Eastlake was founded in 1997, hence the 25 years, by a group of families that came from another local church in the Irmo area. Eastlake's birth came through strife and relational angst as staff and families, staff were fired and families took sides on issues that were both doctrinal and stylistic. Eastlake's founding pastor was Jerry Gray, and Jerry was on staff along with Jeff Kinney, Eastlake's founding worship arts pastor, at Dutch Fork Christian Church that met locally just up the road at Friarsgate. And when both pastors were fired along with a youth pastor, there was chaos at Dutch Fork. Many of the families that came out of that got together and said, we want to start a new church. And so they rented space and they started to meet. Jeff and Melanie led worship, and Myron Walker actually taught some of the first messages at Eastlake. So I do want to...
Who still goes
Well, hang on. So Myron and Sue Walker and Dale and Sonia Spires are two of our original founding families that are still here. So thank them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think Dale's here.
Dale. I see that shirt peeking out.
So Jerry had actually gone back to Savannah. He was not comfortable with the idea of leading a church out of a split. He didn't want to damage his former church. But when it became apparent that Eastlake was going to be a church, he agreed and came on board. And so it began.
You know, it's really interesting, and I think that you'll find this as the story continues to play out, but Eastlake was born out of a church split.
Yeah, it was.
Pain, a lot of heartbreak.
Yeah, there was some hard stuff. Yeah, it really was.
Situations, and so we're not sweeping that under the rug. That's how we started.
So Eastlake, right out of the gate, was founded on a scripture that I'd like us to read together. You're familiar with this. This is Matthew 28, 18 through 20, the Great Commission. Jesus with his disciples after the resurrection. Then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. Surely I'm with you always to the end of the age. So as we talk about Eastlake's history, I want you to come back to that and several ideas in the Great Commission that Eastlake has been about since the beginning. So if you'll do that, I think you'll find it.
Yeah. So every church has kind of a heartbeat to it, or a culture to it. And when I say that, what I'm trying to communicate is there's something that you feel. It's not written on a wall. It's not in a vision statement. It's just something that you experience when you come into a church. Like, for instance, here, our hope, and only you know if we're actually hitting this, but our hope is that it feels like a family, that it feels like we're intentionally multicultural, that we don't want to have just a bunch of the same like-minded people. We believe we're stronger with people that don't think, act, or grow up the way we grew up. Discipleship is huge. I mean, we have lots of people that are being discipled, and we're continually trying to get more and more people to take a commitment to disciple or be discipled in things like that. So that's kind of like what I hope our culture is here. What were the things in the beginning that was like the culture or the heartbeat of this church?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right out of the gate, Eastlake wanted to be different. They wanted to do church differently. There was a strong effort to remove barriers of language, barriers of presumption, so that God could be more accessible, more easily understood, especially for the unchurched, people that didn't have any experience being in church. And so we changed the language. The sermon was message or a teaching time. We didn't talk about tithes and offerings. We talked about giving. We talked about generosity. We even told people that came in the door for the first time, don't give. There's no presumption that you're going to give. We worshiped with a rock and roll band. There were electric guitars on the stage. That was people looked at that kind of cross-eyed in the day.
This is 1997. That was weird in
it was.
especially in South
Carolina.
That was like, you guys were cutting edge.
It was.
They were probably praying for you. You were in prayer service. I'm sure of it.
Well, it was. And we were telling people, come as you are. The dress code wasn't suit and tie back in the day. And the messages were geared to be relevant, something you could take home, an idea or an application and do, right then, that next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it.
And it was revolutionary. We were one of only 2 churches around the Columbia area that were doing that in its day. A couple things I do want to point out in those early days. Eastlake came out of the gate really focused on serving in and being visible in the local community. So whether it was the Okra Strut, the parade, serving, giving out water, they gave us a stage for a while to worship and do things with. There was a Jingle Jam event, a Christmas event that we held up in Kroger parking lot, and people came, and people met Jesus. And in the first year of Eastlake's existence, now it depends on who you ask, between 80 and 100 people came to know the Lord, just in the first year.
I love it. Well, did you guys, so you didn't have a building yet, so you guys are like living out of trailers right
Yeah,
now?
we're not there yet.
I feel like the hippiness of it, I would have blended in. I could have really enjoyed myself, Chris.
You've blended in over the years. I'm not sure what that's about, but you're right.
I love it. But there was no building, so you guys would set up and...
Yeah, we were church in a trailer, and so every Sunday somebody would go pick the trailers up, bring them to the school. We were meeting in schools. We were renting space, and so you'd have to get all the stuff out of the trailer, set it up, make sure it worked, troubleshoot, and then rehearse. Usually 2 services, and then it was tear it all down, load it up, off they go, and it was every week, same thing.
I think we should tear all this apart, put it in trailers, and then every Sunday bring it out just to get a feel for our roots.
Yeah, I think there's enough people in the room that would disagree with you on that.
But I will say something on that that's really interesting is, I don't know if you've ever been a part of a church plant, but there is something really powerful that can actually take place when you're kind of in that shared struggle of having to set up at 7 a.m. and as much as it's hard, it bonds you as a family. And everybody has this ownership because it doesn't happen unless everybody chips in. And then what can happen is you get all the seats and you get the comfort, and then all of a sudden let's show up for the show. And so we as Eastlake want to completely fight against that, and we hope that you feel like this is your church. And this might be weird to say, but if a toilet needed cleaning, that you wouldn't walk out of the bathroom and say, oh, somebody needs to clean that toilet. That the first thing you would think is, where's the cleaning supplies? I got to go clean that toilet. I mean, that's kind of, and that might turn people away, but that's what a family does. Everybody chips in.
And that's very much how early Eastlake was characterized. Yeah.
I do want to go back to our roots a little, not a lot, like 10% go back to our roots. 10%, maybe like not the trailers, but.
All right, so let me tell you about something cool that happened early on in Eastlake's ministry. This was about 3 years in. We talked early, Eastlake kind of formed out of a church split, but about 3 years in, there was a church merge. And Jerry Gray used to always call it an enfolding, but it was a merge, and I'm going to call it a merge. So about 3 years in, Eastlake Community Church merged with Palmetto Point Community Church. And Palmetto was the other church in the area that was doing ministry similarly. And there's, I actually came in through Palmetto Point, and there's several others that did as well. The churches were mirror images, very similar. Heart for unchurched, contemporary church, a lot of similarities. So, we mentioned the church in a trailer. The school districts didn't want us to become permanent residents in the schools that we were renting space in on Sundays. So it was every 2 or 3 years we would have to move. And there's a list somewhere. We'll put it up on the board. These are all the different schools that Eastlake and Palmetto were in over a very short period of time. So we were nomads. I mean, we'd get settled one place and then we'd have to go somewhere else. So at some point, Palmetto rented space way down on St. Andrews Road. And I say way down because it's almost a broad river. And it was outside the area that we had been serving. And so we didn't realize it at the time, but we really challenged ourselves. And it was become a part of that community or not, and then there might be some consequences. So we sort of stagnated on. We grew marginally, and then we got to a crisis point where conversations with Eastlake needed to get serious. Now, the lead pastor at Palmetto at the time was Kevin Pike. He would eventually become the lead pastor at Eastlake. But Kevin and Jerry had been having conversations for months, even before it got to the point where Palmetto said, okay, it's time to talk. And here's the cool thing. God was working to organize a merging of these two churches months before we realized it. And as we went through that process, we found there were strengths and weaknesses of both groups, and they were perfectly matched to the other. It was amazing. And I also want to comment on the idea that the humility and obedience of the leaders, pastors, and partners of both churches in those early times was God-led, because it was truly a merging. You would think there might have been a little bit of relational stuff, a little bit of vying for, who's going to be in charge of this, that, and the other, and it just didn't happen. It was a God-orchestrated process all the way through. It was really special.
That's too cool. So we might have started with a split, but we ended up merging.
Yeah, and that story's not over yet.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Yep. Cool stuff. So then we finally got a building. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So right after the merge, capital campaign started. The dive-in campaign, I referred to it earlier. Eastlake broke ground on this facility in the fall of 2003, and we held our first services here on August 15th, 2004. Now, it's possible I'm wrong about the exact date, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
Somebody will tell you.
So, yeah. So, early on in the building process, we had a service here that was really special. It was a dedication service. And so, the lot's cleared, the foundation is poured, it's a concrete slab, dirt parking lot. We all show up and park on the dirt, and we're praying and dedicating the space to who would come next. And as part of that, we handed out Sharpies. And we said, if you want to write down prayers for your friends, your family, somebody you're praying for that would get to know the Lord that might come to Eastlake, those that would come after, we roped off this section of the stage and said, put your prayers down under the stage, because we knew we'd build the stage here. And so I've got a picture I want to show. My 5-year-old son was studying math sentences at the time, wrote Aaron Buck plus God equals communion. I didn't think it would get me.
You can't beat it.
And I know his story. And as much as I love my son, my daughter, my kids, how much more so God loves us. Yeah.
It's amazing to me when I hear that. I think about that. Those people did not know that I existed. I mean, I'm probably living in New Mexico at this time. But their prayers were for you. They were for me. They were for what we're experiencing right now. Through pandemics, through everything, that he's like, this is it. This is the kind of thing that they're praying for. And we're living into those prayers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. So we're in the building now. We'll go to that part. We're growing quickly. We're getting used to a new worship space, new spaces. And there's 3 ministries that I just want to touch on that kind of defined Eastlake in those early years. And I'll leave some out, and I apologize if I do. But 3 I want to hit are Acts, a community that serves, and that was Eastlake's care ministry inside and outside of Eastlake, the local care ministry. And a lot of people got involved in that in a lot of different ways. And it was a great ministry. Acts eventually became Acts Metro, and then there was an Acts Around the World, which was our missions arm that was the beginning of our partnership with Belize that has continued to grow and thrive to this day. So Acts, I want to talk about Fan Jam. That was part of our family ministry. By the way, we're doing the same curriculum here at Eastlake now that we used to do then, so the orange curriculum. So Fan Jam was a monthly variety show held right here on this stage that empowered parents with knowledge on what their kids were going to be learning. It's a value-driven teaching each month. And so we were helping parents become the pastors in their kids' lives.
Which is so crazy. So just in case you guys don't have kids and don't know, we do a thing called orange curriculum here. And it's basically, the concept is that, okay, so a lot of like other Sunday school, if you will, can I say that? Or kids curriculum.
We don't say that,
will
but you
be
can say
just
that.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. Forgive me. But it's kind of like drop your kids off. We're going to teach them about Jesus, right? But the orange curriculum is you drop your kids off. We'll teach them about Jesus, but we want to empower you as the parent to be the pastor in their lives. We get them for 1 hour. You get them all of the rest of the time. So it's very much a cohesive curriculum between the kids and the parents, and hopefully the parents are getting all the resources to be able to be the most important pastor in the kids' lives.
Absolutely.
And that's amazing. Fam Jam was doing the same concept, and then here we are still doing it today. It's a big, big deal.
All right, so the other ministry I wanted to touch on and kind of highlight was our youth ministry. Now, running youth ministry out of a box or a school is pretty well impossible. And so our youth ministry really hit its stride once we had our own space. They were down the hall in a large room down there. It didn't take long until they needed to be in here. And our youth, we had some great youth pastors over the years. I mean, if you just stop and think about them, some great, great hearts. They were always looking for the underserved, the marginalized in community, whether it was the homeless or whether it was students. And for many years, we actually built and had a skate park out in the front. And every Wednesday, when you came by for youth ministry, we would attract kids that were marginalized, and they'd identified as the skater kids. And so there were years where we were known as the Skater Church, and that's where you came.
Hey, this is not like 2021. This is early. This is a long time ago. That was weird back then. That was really. I mean, there were prayer circles for you in the
For that too?
Yeah, there were. I'm sure there were. So.
All right, so I have a God story I want to share that kind of marks that period of time, and I have permission to tell it. This was Kevin, still the lead pastor at Eastlake, and we're just getting settled in the building. But a young family had begun attending Eastlake, Bill and Teresa McAfee, and become a part of the Eastlake community. And Bill was experiencing the early onset of kidney disease at the time, and while at Eastlake, that progressed to a point where he needed a transplant. And so, as Eastlake does, we came around Bill and began to pray for healing and pray for a donor. And as God can do and sometimes does, he provided a donor from within Eastlake's body. She knew she was the donor before the test came back saying she was a match. And so they did the transplant, and his health was fully restored. Yeah. Now, wait, hang on. So the best part, it gets better. It actually gets better. So sometime later, we found a photo, and it was a photo of a group of Eastlakers circled up in prayer for Bill. And in the photo, Bill, is standing next to his donor, and they don't yet know each other. That's God showing off.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Isn't that fun? So, yeah, that was a pretty neat time.
And that's a really neat story to share, even for what's going on today, because I know just because I'm a pastor here, we have a lot of people that are going through some really intense struggles and praying for healing.
Yes.
And, when we sing songs about healing and different things, I know that some people probably in the room don't know how to feel about that, but we really do believe. I mean, that's a part of Eastlake, that God can heal. He can provide. And so when we say those things, we sing those things, we mean it.
He's done it.
God, you can do it. So we don't put God in a box, and we trust him, and we have faith in him.
That's right.
Yeah. So that was the Kevin Pike era. So then tell me about when we go in, there's a new pastor coming along, Steve Musto. So that's kind of the next chapter. Yeah,
so next chapter. In 2011, Eastlake called Steve Musto from Blackhawk Church in Madison, Wisconsin, to be our next lead pastor. Steve was really passionate about the Bible, both from a teaching standpoint and teaching us how to read and understand the Bible. And so most of his messages, and those of you that were from that time will recognize these words, the Bible is not written to us. He would start messages with this. The Bible is not written to us, it is written for us. We are not the original audience, so we have to read it through the eyes of the original audience. Yeah. So, Steve taught some great series. And if you go back, there's some Eastlake's archives are phenomenal. If you get on the website and go back and look, you can see a lot of great stuff. The one that I think marked Eastlake the most was the big tent. and some of you remember it. This was a sermon illustration that eventually became a teaching message that became a series, and the series has been retaught here many times over. There's even a room down the hall that's labeled the Big Tent. Did you know that?
I did not.
I saw it. I saw it this morning.
And I
So
work here, and I've never seen it. It's weird.
So let me just real quick. The idea of the Big Tent is that God's grace and love is available to everyone. It's inclusive. And the big tent represents his grace and love, and we can all be under the tent. Now, there's tent poles that represent some of the foundations of the faith. The Bible is the Word of God. Jesus is God. Jesus is the only way to God. If we can agree on those things, there's a lot of room that we can disagree on some other things and still all worship and serve and exist together under the big tent. And I just love that idea. And Steve ushered that in for us, and it's continued to propel us.
It's really important to understand that for you guys, because I know as a pastor here, there's a lot of people who will come to Eastlake, and they're kind of like testing us, like, let me throw this at you and see if you're still going to love me. And I just want you to know, whatever you bring, we're under the same tent. That is a part of our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is, we can worship together and we can praise God.
Absolutely.
So it's huge. This is why history is important. Now I'm a believer. I've always been a believer.
All right, so when Steve came in, we didn't bring him in with the idea thinking that he was a change agent. But as I have reflected and prepared for this message, we went through a tremendous amount of change under Steve's 8 years as our lead pastor. So God knew where he was leading us, and that Steve was uniquely gifted and obedient to lead us through it. So I'm going to go over some of these changes, and you're going to go, what? We did that in 8 years? Yeah, we did. So vision statement, redefined. Worship, service, approach, changed, redefined. Elder, focus and function, redefined. Staff, transitions on the front end and the back end, and a complete realignment of staff. Those were hard, some of them, and some of you know what I mean. And a financial approach redo, both on the way we approach spending, and we implemented a reserve system so that our staff could actually spend monies that were budgeted. At times, we'd get frozen because we were living too close to the edge. So that's a lot of change. Yeah. So some of them were painful and difficult, and we don't like change. We don't like change. Nobody likes change. Here's what I'll say to that. In my opinion, Steve did a great job, an admirable job navigating the changes, and God used him to help position Eastlake well for what came next.
Is this where we get to talk about me, Chris?
Have you been waiting for that? You've been looking forward to that?
I really don't care. But it's funny, I made you laugh, so.
Yeah, we can. We can talk about you.
Okay, so Steve transitions out, and things really did. This was a weird time because I came here during this time.
Yeah.
It was weird for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I came when there was no lead pastor, but I need to stop talking.
You gonna let me tell that story? Yeah, okay. I'll tell that story. All right, so Steve transitioned out in the summer of 2019, and what you may not realize is that when Steve transitioned out, we were already in the midst of a search process for another worship arts pastor. Our worship arts pastor had left 3 or 4 months before that to go to another church. So for a while, we were lead pastor less and worship arts pastor less.
Did you lead worship?
No. I was the chairman of the elder board. I was really close to the staff during that time. Those were some fun times, let me tell you. So those were some challenging times. And here's what I'll say is the elders had to make a decision. Do we keep looking for the next worship arts pastor, or do we stop, go through a lead pastor process, and let that person hire the next worship arts pastor? That was the conventional thinking at the time. And we really, as elders, felt led to continue the search. Little did we know, oh, you're welcome, by the way, because we ended up hiring you. Little did we know that when Philip would be called and come in, he had been through several lead pastor transitions prior to coming into Eastlake. He wasn't intimidated in the least at the idea that we had not yet hired the lead pastor. And I'll let him talk about what his thoughts were at that. But God had gone before us.
Yeah, I remember coming, and I didn't say this in the first service, but I remember coming and interviewing and meeting everybody, loving everybody, and they kept kind of throwing like the reality at me, like, so you know, like we've been through it, right? So you know, and it really, for me, it felt like every time that I would get a chance to speak with you guys, I just would always get off the phone or Zoom call and say, I really like those people. I really like it, and there was a connection.
Yeah.
And when we came, there was no lead pastor. Me and Kristen moved our whole family, no lead pastor. Weird. But I met Ray, and I felt like...
Yeah, Ray was on staff at the time.
Ray was on staff,
yep.
But he was not the lead pastor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just, in my heart, felt like this is what God's doing, and I feel okay with it, and it's going to just take a step of faith, at least for me and my family, but we really believe that this is where he's leading, but even if he doesn't, we kind of had to hold our hands open.
Right.
And trust.
Eventually, Ray was presented to the church for affirmation as our next lead pastor. It was the Sunday before the COVID shutdown. Of course. So we're
lucky to be here right now.
Well, so we presented him, but he couldn't be affirmed with a vote until we got back together. So he was interim through the shutdown. All right? Once we got back together, called a meeting, had a vote. We even did drive-in voting.
Drive-in voting.
Yeah, that was great. Drive-in voting.
What a season. So is there any final thoughts that you have?
Two quick things, if I may. I have struggled with the beginning of Eastlake's existence since I've been preparing for this message. It's bugged me how Eastlake was born out of strife. It has. But I want to tell the rest of that story, because if it's bugging you, you're going to feel better after I tell this, because I have. In the fall of 97, and if you'll remember, Eastlake started in the spring of 97, so about 6 months later, Promise Keepers had an event called a Million Man March in D.C., and they asked men to come up, and they were going to pray and listen to messages and pray for our nation. And a group of folks from Eastlake and a group of folks from Dutch Fork Christian Church, which was the church that Eastlake kind of split from and a lot of people came from, both attended the event, unbeknownst to one another. Yeah, you know where this is going. One of the speakers talked about the need for forgiveness and reconciliation and challenged everyone present to go to those that they had wronged or confess and seek forgiveness. And so as he was speaking, the group from Eastlake and the group from Dutch Fork discovered one another in close proximity. Now, they didn't call this the Million Man March for no reason. There were a lot of people there. There is no way God didn't set that up. So, obviously, they recognized that too. And there was forgiveness and repentance and restoration and healing. Now, not everybody did. Not everybody took advantage of that opportunity, but many did. And so that really closed that chapter, and there was some tremendous healing there. So the last thing I do want to say, if I may. All right. When Ray asked the elders to teach about Eastlake's history, I really knew right then that God wanted me to do it. But I really tried to not do it. Yeah. You laugh because you know. But here's the story. Once I took that small step, God has been at work. It's like I moved just an inch, just a little step, and he's moved 10 miles. He has done something in me, restoring and healing and envisioning and challenging me in ways that I couldn't imagine. And so I'm sharing that to you, and we say this in men's ministry, to ask yourself, as it relates to your relationship with God, Eastlake, others, what's your next right thing that he wants you to do? Because that's how our relationship works with him. It's a series of next right steps. So give that some thought wherever you are, and I would encourage you, because as a witness, it's worth it. Can I pray us out?
Yes.
All right, let's pray. Father God, we pause now to give you thanks for your faithfulness to Eastlake over the years. We honor the pastors, the staff members, the partners that have come before us. Lord, we lift them up to you in prayer. May they understand and sense your good pleasure and our gratitude. Thank you for their obedience, their pioneering spirit, their faithfulness. We stand on their shoulders. God, I pray that we steward the mission well, that they were called to initially and faithfully kept, and that is ours going forward. Amen.
Would you stand with us? We chose to sing this song because these are the things that bind us, if you will. These are the things that we can agree on. That big tent concept that we talked about, this is it. Our Father everlasting, the all-creating one, God Almighty, through your Holy Spirit, conceiving Christ our Son, Jesus our Savior, That's what binds us. So let me tell you this. I'm so glad you came today. It's really a great day to show up. We've got a spot back here called Take 5. The lights just went on, and Pastor Ray's back there. That's a place we want to get to know you. So if you would go back there and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit. We're quick. We won't take all your day. But back here we got our prayer corner too. So if you have something that you'd like us to pray for, our pastors pray every Tuesday for those things. And don't forget, there's a zip code party about to go down in the lobby. So if you're a part of that zip code party, I hope you have a great time. I'm going to join you. I got to join you. So, all right, thanks for being here. Have a great week. See you next Sunday, all right?